Hey you guys, I'm going to show you how to sew this really cute and fun to make wrap skirt. It's from Love Jill and I can't wait to show you how easy it is. Grab your pattern and let's go. I am going to use a quilting cotton for one side of the skirt, and this is a dyed muslin fabric for the back side of the skirt. In England, muslin is like a cheesecloth, so that is not what I'm talking about here. I just wanted to use a cheapy fabric for one side of the skirt because I know that 99.9% of the time I'm going to be wearing this on the outside. And this is an Anna Maria Horner fabric print. Okay, I'm going to collect all my stuff. You'll need your iron, your presser board, your sewing machine, thread, and then let's get sewing. Okay, so what can be a little bit confusing, I had to write on my pattern pieces, is for each pattern piece, there's only 4 pattern pieces. For the skirt front, it says cut 2 on fold, but you cut 2 for both fabrics. So I write here in my handwriting, cut 2 for each fabric. So for this, and this is on the fold, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? And keep those together. For the yoke back, cut 1 on fold of each fabric. So I've got 2 pieces here, and that's the back of the yoke. I love having a nice wide yoke. It's really comfortable. So for this one, yoke, cut 2 of each fabric. This is not on the fold. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 pieces. And nothing was cut on the fold, whereas the yoke back was cut on the fold. All right. And lastly, the skirt back, cut 1 on fold of each fabric. So here's the fold. So this is a back. Let me just unfold it for you so you know what I mean. There's one skirt back, and there's the other skirt back. And it's the back of the skirt. Okay, anyways. So I keep all my pattern pieces straight by clipping the pattern piece to the fabric so that I know what to do. So now you'll want to grab your pattern, and I always make notes on the pattern so that I can understand it better later. But let's get going. So we did step 1, which is wash and dry your fabric and cut out your pieces. Step 2, with right sides together, stitch skirt fronts to skirt backs at side seams. Press seams open. This is the easy part, and once you do it for one, you just repeat it to do it for the other. So it's super, super easy to do this skirt. Okay, so let me start with the blue. I'm going to lay out my skirt back. And I'm going to grab my front pieces. Place these skirt pieces right sides together and match the raw edges. Use tons of pins to hold in place. Sew down both of those sides. Don't skip this step of pressing your seams open. Make sure you do this. Okay, repeat for the other side. Okay, now we're on step 3, which is sewing the yoke back to the yoke front. This can be a little tricky, so just keep your labels straight. Let's do this one first so you can really see what I'm doing. This is the yoke back. See how it curves up like this, like a smile? Take your yoke front pieces and you want to continue the smile. So lay it out like this so that you can see that it's curving up like the picture, the diagram in the pattern shows you. And then bring this over, right sides together, and we're going to sew this seam here. Now remember, on the right side of this one, we're going to keep an opening of 2.5 inches so that we can fit our tie through at the end. So I'm going to mark, I'm going to measure 2.5 inches. I want to come down a little bit, so I'm going to start it here and then 2.5 inches will be right here. So I'll sew here and I'll sew here, but I'm going to leave that open. And then on this one, it'll be the opposite side. It'll be the left side that we keep open. So here's my yoke back, right side up. See how I keep the smile going? Pin it together first. We're going to come down. I like to match this up. So see, my first pin is right there. So my 2.5 inch opening will start here. I was pretty close. And it'll end there. So we've got the 2 yoke pieces. Opening on the left for this one, opening on the right for this one. Now let's go sew these. So now we're going to press the seams open. So now we're going to stitch the yoke to the skirt. So I like to lay this out. Let me see. Okay, so this is how it's going to end up. So now we need to sew it together. So these seams are going to match. Pin the seams first. And this seam goes with this seam. right, now we're going to clip this seam, and clipping allows the curves to lay more nicely. I don't know how else to say it. I'm not a professional seamstress. I just have learned a lot, and clipping curves is a good idea. So let's clip into this seam allowance, and then we're going to press the seam towards the yoke. So what I do is I just come in here. I don't go crazy, but I'm cutting up almost to the stitching line, not into the stitches, just so this curve can really nicely. Make sure that your skirt is away so you're not cutting into your fabric on the skirt main panels. Now press the seam up towards the yoke. Okay, so let's do this with the other skirt. Mine is the blue. I'm going to repeat all these steps, do all this up to this point, and then we'll carry on. I'm going to cut my ties, and she gives the measurements in the pattern. So I'm just making sure that they're the exact length. So there's the long one. And we'll be folding this and sewing it. It won't be this wide by the end. Now we are on step 5 of the pattern. We're going to sew our ties and belt loops. I'm going to come in at an angle and then sew, and then I'll turn it right side out. I just like that little detail. I don't know why. You don't have to do that. Now we'll sew these ties on. You want to come down 1/2 inch from the top edge, and I have the long one here on the left and the shorter one on the right, and I'm just going to sew those down, and then we're going to put the skirt together. So now we're going to sew these skirts together. You've got your main with the ties, and you've got the reversible side as well. Place the skirts right sides together and match up the seams and the side edges. Take your time doing this. It's really important that they all match. And keep your ties out of the way. You don't want to be sewing over the ties. If you need to pin them out of the way, do so now. sew all the way around the entire skirt, leaving an opening of 6 inches on the bottom for turning right side out later. Okay, we're on the home stretch. We've got the whole skirt top stitched. Now remember the openings we left in the yoke? Here they are. And they should perfectly match up if you did, like the instructions said, one on the right, one on the left. Now they match. So now with your machine, just top stitch 1/8 of an inch seam allowance around the opening. I'm going to do that and I'll meet you back here. We'll put on the belt loops and we're done. So this is the center back seam. You can try on your skirt if you're unsure about where to go. But this is the center back. And this belt loop, fold it in half and cut it to make 2. And you'd put one here and one here. Okay, so we've got 2 pieces here. What I like to do is just fold down like 1/4 of an inch, maybe it's a scant quarter, so that when I sew this down, the raw edges are underneath. Okay, it doesn't say that in the pattern, but I think a lot of people would just naturally do that anyways. So we're going to center it over that back seam. I'm going to pin it in place, and I'm going to sew that one and that end. And then we're going to do the same thing over here. And if you line these up, you can just sew it one time and you'll catch both at the same time. That can be tricky. You don't have to do it like this. I've made about 6 or 7 of these skirts, so I'm just going to go for it. Okay, so I'm sewing them both on at the same time. But if you want to do one at a time, do the inside skirt or the one you think you'll wear less often first, and then do the side that you'll wear most often last. Okay, I'm going to sew this on. Be right back. All right, the skirt is done. Just an easy, quarantine-friendly wrap skirt.